And the suppression of free speech, freedom of expression.
Yeah.
The ability of people to say what they honestly feel about a situation.
Yes.
And the suppression of people's basic rights to freedom.
Absolutely, yeah. And that kind of like taught me a lot and inspired me to do the show. But, you know...
Well, you start, I mean, it's a crazy story, this, and I want to tell it because you just decide to do 5-minute stuff on YouTube.
Yeah.
And you are expecting a few people to watch it. And then literally it just flies and suddenly you're getting millions of people watching this. And very quickly, one of the big networks comes in and then you're suddenly doing this stuff for 30 to 40 million people.
Yeah.
Like a third of the entire population of Egypt is tuning in to watch it. You're the biggest star of Egyptian television.
Oh, please.
You were.
Don't stop.
No, but I mean, what an extraordinary thing, though, for a heart surgeon to go from helping protesters medically in Tahrir Square at the start of the Arab Spring to within a year, you're the biggest star on Egyptian television. It's a crazy thing.
It doesn't sound as glamorous as this. It felt horrible.
Did it? Why?
Oh, yeah. Overnight fame, this
Scary.
size, it's toxic. Terrible. Terrible. It corrupts. It goes into your soul, and it's not good. It's not. I actually didn't enjoy it. And the worst part about it is that like you're trying to do comedy in very controversial climate about very controversial issues. So you'll never satisfy people. And the problem is that people have these expectations. Oh, if you are successful in this, you must be successful at solving this. And when things are not solved, because politics, as you know, very difficult to solve. That expectation, this love, turns into hate, and this is one of many reasons that I had to leave, and I came here eventually.
Well, let's just take people through what happened because they probably don't know, a lot of people. So during the presidency of Mohamed Morsi, who was a democratically elected Islamist, you had relative freedom to start, but then the more you went after government propaganda, the more you stood up for the people against the government, then the trouble started. Morsi wanted to shut you up. You eventually get dragged through the courts.
For one day, it was a warrant for my arrest, and then I turned myself in, and I was interrogated, and it was the funniest interrogation ever. And in my stand-up shows, I talk about that scene.
Because the guards were reading the stuff out and laughing, right?
Well, the guards were taking selfies with me, which is funny. Right. and the exchange between me and the prosecutor, general prosecutor, was extremely funny. I mean, I don't like to victimize myself. I don't like, oh, look at that. I actually like to find humor.
But why were you arrested? What was the criteria?
Oh, yeah. I think the list was insulting Islam, insulting the president, spreading false rumors, and disrupting the fabric of society. And it was, I think the people in the room didn't know what to do with me because they ended up discussing my jokes. So it turned into a writer's room. And I was kind of like, how do you think we make this funnier? And it was the funniest exchange ever. And after 6 hours, I was let go. And
was it scary, though, at the same time, that suddenly the machinery was getting a grip of you? Because it was to get a lot scarier. But was it in that moment when you first got arrested, you thought, I'm being arrested for breaching my freedom of speech, right?
For some reason, I just like went with the flow. I went to the interrogation wearing the big hat. I went to the show. It was just, I just wanted this to be a farce because I just like, you're really coming after the comedian. And I just tried to enjoy myself, but deep inside I was dying.
Well, you actually, it gets serious enough where you may have died because actually Morsi gets, of course, deposed. In comes General El-Sisi in a coup, a military coup, and he doesn't find satire a laughing matter, particularly when the jokes are about him. You get blocked. They literally block your show from airing.
I aired one episode, and it's interesting. This is a very interesting story because the first episode that was aired after the removal in the Muslim Brotherhood, everybody was waiting to see what I would say. Because by that time, all of the Islamic channels that were, I mean, like me and Islamic channel, like it's like they had 5 channels and they were like me and them going like that. They had like 5 channels that have only 1 hour a week. And then they were removed. And then a lot of the other dissident voices were also being shut down. Now, people are waiting. What will Basim say? And on the day that the show aired, The next day I went out and everybody like, good, at least somebody is speaking. It was a very controversial episode. Nobody liked it. And yet everybody liked it. Because people said like, you're supporting the coup. No, you're the Muslim Brotherhood. Everybody accused me of something. All I did in that episode was just being a mirror of what is happening in the street and showing them how ridiculous it is.
You didn't take a fixed position.
Well, my position, depending on what's your position?
What did you intend your position to be?
My position was to show the ridiculousness of how the people now was like, oh, we got rid of Islamic fascism, but we are heading towards another fascism. There was a song that I did that was very controversial. People, and it's very funny, the pro-Muslim Brotherhood thought that this is a disrespect to the people who died. And on the other side, the people said that this is a disrespect to the army. And when you manage to offend everybody, you know you're right.
Yes.
And then the people in the middle, it's like, oh, you weren't tough enough. And I was told, it's like, why didn't you go after? The ceiling of freedom just went down. And I was just like, it is very difficult to go against an authority that was very popular at the time.
And especially a military authority with a lot of experience of weaponizing these situations.
Yeah.
You had death threats.
People would always choose, most of the time, they will always choose the military form rather than the religious form because they kind of like, at least they are not infringing on my personal freedom. Not yet. But
you had threats on your life, didn't you?
Oh, all the time. I don't talk about that because like I have been having death threats like never stopped since 2011. Never stopped.
Have they continued since our last interview?
Oh yeah, they never stopped.
People threatening to kill you?
All the time.
Why? For what reason?
Oh, for just saying something that they don't like. Oh, because you are against Egypt, you're against Islam, you're against our president, you're against God. It never stops. It never stops.
It doesn't.
خوت السلام عليكم، مرحبا بكم. شفنا مقطع من اللقاء الثاني ديال الدكتور باسم يوسف والإعلامي بيرس مورغان. حقيقة بزاف ديال الناس ما كانوش عندهم فكرة على القضية الفلسطينية، كنهضر عن الناس ديال الغرب وحتى بعض الشباب العرب والمسلمين اللي ما كبروش مع القضيه الفلسطينيه وما عرفوش الحقيقه ديال علاقه اسرائيل بفلسطين ويعني واحد المشاكل اللي دامت سنين بين العرب والاسرائيليين. فالدكتور باسم يوسف اللي عطى واحد الضوء وواحد الاشعاع لهذه القضيه من خلال اللقاء ديالو بالاعلامي بيرس مورغان. هذا الاخير اللي كان عجبو اللقاء الاول وخدا واحد الصدى كبير حتى من المشاهدات على اليوتيوب فتجاوزات 20 مليون مشاهده. فمشى عندو حتى للميريكان لوس انجليس ودار معاه لقاء فيس تو فيس. الحمد لله ان كاين بعض الناس اللي متشبعين وعندهم معلومات الكافيه اللي تعطي فكره للناس الاجانب او للعرب اللي ما عندهمش الحقيقه المطلقه على الظلم اللي كيتعرضوا ليه الاخوان الفلسطينيين من الاسرائيليين. بزاف ديال الناس اللي اعتنقوا الاسلام من بعد هذه المحنه ديال الاخوان الفلسطينيين بطبيعه الحال اللي كنتمناو انها يكون لها حل في اقرب وقت ويعيشوا في امن وامان. شكرا لكم الخوت اللي شفتوا معنا الفيديو حتى الاخير. نتمنى انكم تبارطاجيو على اوسع نطاق، ديروا لنا اللايكات، التعليقات ديالكم، شجعوا هذه القناه الفتيه باش نبقاو دائما نقدموا لكم الافضل. كان هذا هو الفيديو ديال اليوم، معكم اخوكم منير. السلام عليكم ورحمه الله وبركاته.